signaling to farmers. This was deeply consistent with the tradition's founding philosophy. Dankwa himself has spent his legal career fighting for fair treatment of cocoa farmers against a colonial system that extracted their surplus. The Akufo government, therefore, continued that fight in a new era, supporting farmers with equal and better prices. He didn't reduce the price back. The result was significant growth in cocoa production, higher income for farming families, and stronger rural economies. And when President Akufo declared a golden age of business, he was sending a clear message. The government that is not the owner of Ghana's economy, but the citizens are. The private sector is the agent. The individual initiative is the foundation. The administration worked to create a regulatory environment in which Ghanaian entrepreneurs could grow, invest, and grow. This inspired the new confidence and attracted many Ghanaians from the diaspora to come home and invest in the country. I am a living example of that initiative. Discovery of oil, the opportunity, and the property owning economy. No account of Akufo's years will be complete without speaking about one of the most consequential developments in Ghana's modern economic history, the discovery of oil. And that story, properly told, is itself a demonstration of what this tradition means in practice. From 2001, the Akufo administration set about stabilizing Ghana's economy under the HIPPY framework and rebuilding investor confidence after years of macroeconomic difficulty. This was a deliberate signal to the world that Ghana was a serious, stable, and rule-governed place, and with capital to be committed and contract to be trusted. That signal had consequences far beyond what any single policy announcement could achieve. One of those consequences was the repositioning of Ghana National Petroleum Corporation as an active commercial partner rather than a passive regulatory body. The administration worked to create a legal and institutional environment that invited international oil companies to bring their capital, their technology, and their expertise to Ghana's offshore waters. Cosmos Energy and Tullow Oil signed key petroleum agreement with Ghana in 2004. 3 years later, in 2007, during the final year of President Akufo's tenure, those companies discovered the Jubilee Field. It was one of most significant offshore discoveries in West Africa in a generation. President Akufo's response to the discovery was characteristically direct. He framed it not as a windfall for government, but as a transformational opportunity for the Ghanaian people. Oil, he said, was money for schools, roads, and hospitals. He spoke of Ghana becoming an Africa type. These were not empty phrases. They reflected an explicit developmental reading of the fact that natural resources work, properly managed within a democratic framework and directed towards social investment, could accelerate the property owning democracy that this tradition had always sought to build. The ideological consistency deserves emphasis. I repeat, the ideological consistency deserves emphasis. The approach taken to oil and the Akufo was not state capture of a natural resource. It was a market-oriented strategy in which the government created the conditions, established the institutional framework, and positioned GNPC as a credible commercial partner, while private companies provided the risk capital and technical expertise. The state cleared the path. The spares private actors drove the discovery. The anticipated wealth was then to flow through transparent and democratically governed revenue management into the social investment that will broaden opportunities for all Ghanaians. This stands in direct contrast to more resource nationalist approaches to petroleum governance, in which the state seeks to dominate production directly. The Akufo government favored investment-friendly contracts that prioritize attracting foreign capital and technology, integrating GMPC as a commercial participant rather than accepting outside state control. Full petroleum revenue management legislation matured after Akufo, but the philosophical and institutional groundwork was laid on his watch. That groundwork reflected a consistent belief that wealth is created most reliably not by a state that seizes productive assets, but by a state that creates the conditions in which free, well-regulated private enterprise can find and develop them. In this sense, the Jubilee Troll discovery was not merely an economic event, it was an ideological proof of concept. I so submit. Institutionally credible democratic government, only democracy is not only a vision for individual citizens. It is a framework for how a nation as a whole can earn its place in the global economy through sound governance, transparent institutions, and a commitment to private sector-led growth. And finally, protecting the most vulnerable, the Akufo administration introduced the LEAP program. In 2008, the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty program was introduced. This was a targeted cash transfer to the poorest households, the elderly without family support, people with severe disabilities, and orphans and vulnerable children. Some may ask whether a cash transfer program fits within center-right political thoughts. The answer is clear. The MPP's own creed says plainly that there will always be those who are unable to provide for themselves, and that society has a responsibility to protect them. The LEAP was that protection in action. It was not about creating dependency. It was about ensuring that the most vulnerable members of society were not abandoned. That extreme poverty did not become a permanent trap with no exit. A tradition that truly believes in the dignity of every citizen cannot look away from those citizens who need direct help support. LEAP shows that this tradition does not look away. Now let me turn to the Nana Akufo-Addo administration. The scaling of the vision. When President Nana Akufo-Addo took office in January 2017, the ideological threat from the Akufo years remained unbroken. The context, however, was different. The world was entering into a period of extraordinary disruption with the COVID-19 pandemic, supply chain shocks, and global economic instability all ahead. But the commitment was the same: empower the citizen, expand opportunity, and use government as an enabler rather than a controller. What did the Akufo-Addo administration do? And what did it produce? Let me give you specifics, because specifics are the antidote to a vague accusation. First was the free senior high school, a historic turning point. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, according to GES records in Parliament, 3,406,172 Ghanaian youths benefited from free SHS and TVETs between 2017 and 2024. Through this initiative, Ghanaians gained access to secondary education through free senior high school policy. Those who wanted vocational training also have access. And just for the avoidance of that, let me, as I always do, use myself as an example. When I was done with my BEC in 1994, a result finally came, and I qualified for the university. It took the intervention of my friends from Richmond to inform their parents to contribute for my admission fee. But I know that many of my colleagues who also had distinction but had no funds from their families could not afford in the state at home. In final year with universities, I nearly became a dropout. It took back with some rules, pressure, which I had to compete for and win to get me out of secondary school. And I know thousands, if not millions, of Ghanaians lost the opportunity to have secondary education because their parents could not afford. Ladies and gentlemen, before secondary education became free, it was practically a privilege, not legally, not formally, but practically, I guess admit. The fees were manageable for a family in a comfortable neighborhood in Accra. For a smallholder family in the water region, they were often out of reach. The brilliant child of the poor parents sat at home. The less gifted child of the wealthy parent went to school. That was Ghana's reality. Free SHS changed that reality. And look at what followed. Streetism declined, child labor fell, teenage pregnancy dropped in communities where girls were now in school instead of being pushed out of it. Young people who are traditionally put into early domestic service stayed in classroom teaching. The difficulty of finding young domestic workers that some people complain about was not a social problem, it was a social problem. Crucially, the policy did not only remove tuition fees, it expanded public responsibility for feeding in senior high school. Feeding was extended across SHS under the program, and even day students were provided meals in school. This significantly reduced the financial burden on top that students could remain in school without worrying about daily food costs. In the West of the tradition's own vision, education is the primary instrument through which individuals develop their talents, enhance their productivity, and gain the capacity to participate meaningfully in economic life. Free SHS is not a departure from the center-right philosophy. It is its most powerful practical expression. It says to every Ghanaian child, your background does not determine your skill, your effort and talent here. There can be no reversal of free SHS and free TVETs without reversing the progress made in social mobility, in youth development, and in Ghana's national development. That is not a political statement. It is a statement of plain developmental arithmetic. Now let me turn to technical education, STEM, and the skills economy. The Akufo-Addo administration understood that in the modern economy, degrees and technical skills must work together. Therefore, 34 new TVET institutions were established. 62 existing ones were upgraded. 20 STEM cells were built. 10 model STEM secondary high schools were created. 186 modern science laboratories were constructed across the country. In my own constituency, the Winneba NBTI tells a story that speaks for many institutions across Ghana. For decades, it operated with outdated machines and inadequate equipment. But under Akufo-Addo, it received a modern ICT center, new training equipment, new hostel, new admin block, and new classrooms with furniture. And now, this is what will excite you. Through these investments, the confidence level in technical education grew, and the number of enrollments increased from 147 in 2017 to 3,486 by 2024. Those in doubt may go to Winneba Vocational and check the record for themselves. Young people who have been told by years of underinvestment that vocational training was second-rate discovered that it was in fact a serious and promising path. This is the tradition I think most forward-looking, equipping Ghanaians with skills the market actually needs, treating every young person as a potential innovator, not a potential dependent, preparing Ghana for the fourth industrial revolution, in which, as has been rightly observed, digital assets can do more to democratize property ownership than physical.